Good evening. I'd like to call the East Greenbush Central School District Board of Education meeting for December 3rd, 2025 to order. We're all here except for Jesse and Rob Panache. If we could stand for the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, first up, Student Council. I saw them back there.
Hi, everyone. We're excited to be back. We're happy to announce that our Pie Principal event, where we got to pie Mr. Harkin, was successful. We were able to collect a lot of cans and then donate them to our school's backpack program. We also made a gratitude video. So in the library a few weeks before break, students and teachers could go in, say something that they were thankful for, say something that they appreciated, something that made them smile that week, and we put them all together. And there's a video on the district website. And if you haven't seen it yet, you definitely should go check it out. It's really nice to see everybody so happy.
So this week, a couple other clubs have been very busy. On Monday, the musical held the first round of auditions. We can't reveal the show just yet, but they're very excited. And this week, Empowering Student Voices is also having a thank you project. Students will be writing a thank you note on sticky notes, and they're putting it up on the wall, and all the sticky notes will spell out thank you as a whole. I think it looks really good. We have the T and the H so far. And also tomorrow, there's an interest assembly meeting for juniors that are interested in going to New Visions next year. I'm very excited for that.
And then today in Student Council, we voted that this Sunday we'll be shopping for our adoptive family. So we're very excited to continue that tradition. And then also we're going to be decorating the school next Wednesday at our Student Council meeting. So we're excited. Usually all four of the main hallways have a different theme to them, and then the main lobby, and it's really festive. And it's one of my favorite events.
We also voted on our Winter Spirit Week. So Monday will be Merry Monday. It's going to be a nice holiday celebration. Tuesday will be an accessory day, so necklaces, hats, socks, all of that. Wednesday is going to be a cozy ski lodge day, lots of flannel, Sherpa, fun hats, everything. Thursday will be a holiday sweater, ugly sweater day. Can't wait for that one. And Friday will be a PJ day.
And then the last thing we have a lot today. The last thing is we're going to be doing photos with Santa again this year, but we're going to try to make it a little bit bigger of a scene this year. So we're going to try to be inspired by like mall photos with Santa, and we're going to do it the week before break so that students can get their photos delivered to them the day before break ends. And hopefully it's a really fun experience for all of the kids at Columbia. We're excited to plan it and see how it turns out. And that's all we have today. So we'll see you guys next time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Oh, is there any video?
That's what I was wondering too.
There is a video. There is a video. Mr. Harkin can release the video. I do have the video. I can email it. So
I think you should
Maybe I'll
email
make-
that to the board.
email it to the board. Okay. Okay. I
Right on
will.
the district website.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, approval of draft minutes. Any comments or questions? Okay, can I get a motion to approve? Sam, second. Cindy, all those in favor? Okay. Okay, on to the board forum. Kathy?
All set.
I just hope everybody had a great holiday, snow day, of course, and we're back at it. So.
All right, moving to the public forum. Residents, students, employees, and business representatives of the East Greenbush Central School District may address the board on matters concerning programs and/or operations of the district, other than matters involving personnel. Members of the board do not directly respond to citizen concerns during the public forum. If a response is appropriate, either the president or superintendent will contact the individual in the near future. Those persons wishing to address the board will be recognized by the chair of the meeting and should state for the record their name and address or affiliation with the district or business. While the board does not wish to infringe upon free speech protections, it must be stressed that the visitors' forum is not deemed to be an open forum. The board president will conduct the forum for the orderly and efficient operation of board business. In addition, any remarks which may be considered defamatory or stigmatizing are prohibited and will be declared out of order. All comment shall be limited to 5 minutes. Oh, all right. All right, so moving on, before we get to reports and presentations, we have a special presentation that we wanted to do.
So I want to thank the board for affording me a few minutes to recognize some outstanding employees here this evening. And in a moment, I'm going to invite 3 of our administrators forward for a special presentation. When you think about leadership, leadership can come in many different ways, but tonight we are going to honor administrative leadership. And in my short time here, I've had the opportunity to begin to get to know several, and if not all, of our administrators. And it's unfortunate that as quickly as I'm getting to know several of the administrators, as quickly as I'm going to have to say goodbye to them as well. We're going to honor the retirement of Mr. Peter Goodwin, Mr. Dan Garib, and Mrs. Helen Scalacci. The board will be accepting their letters of retirement this evening. I think it's important for us to realize that the collective service of their district, of their service to the district, spans almost 100 years. And when you think about positive leadership in the district, not only does that help a district get to a great place, it helps the district to sustain and continue to achieve and continue to look for ways to become even better. And in a short time, I have learned from all of them what they have done to contribute to the success of our district. So with that, I would like to call forward Mrs. Scalacci, Mr. Garib, and Mr. Goodwin for a short presentation, if you don't mind coming to the front. You got the right order. Well done.
Gentlemen here, you know, chivalry is not dead in the East Greenbush Administrators
go.
Association.
So, Mrs. Scalacci, in recognition of your retirement, both in service as our former Director of Pupil Personnel Services and now Principal of Red Mill Elementary School, in service of, so I don't get it wrong, 21 years of service to the school district, on behalf of the Board of Education, of your fellow administrators, our faculty, our staff, we give you this small token of our appreciation and wish you all the best in the years to come. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Would you mind staying so we get a good photo in the end? No, Mr. Garib, you broke the next decade mark.
Oh.
And in your service as both a classroom teacher and as administrator and a longtime resident of the school district, in your 34 years of service to the East Greenbush Central School District, thank you for everything that you have done. Congratulations. And finally, Mr. Goodwin, retiring as our Director of Technology and formerly a classroom teacher here in the district, for everything that you have helped us achieve, for everything that you have helped us learn in instructional technology and classroom teaching and learning. On behalf of the Board of Education and your fellow administrators, fellow colleagues, congratulations for your 20 years of service to the East Greenbush Central School District. We wish you all the best in the future. Congratulations. If you don't mind, if you all can get together, we're going to take one quick photo.
Yeah. They're the road, the train tree Lawrence.
The flag as a background is quite good. Two. One more. Congratulations.
And we're going to take a short break for refreshments, and then they're out.
They're out in the hall.
They're out in the hall.
So everyone that's here, please make sure you do get something, because otherwise the administrators tomorrow will eat it. So please help yourself.
this year we had a new audit firm, MMB, who had gone through the audit process, and I wanted to welcome Jen Maynard. She was the audit manager on the engagement, and she's going to go do a debriefing of the audit. We already had presented the audit in extreme detail with the Finance and Audit Committee back in early November. So this is the next step to actually present those results and ask the board to accept those results. So Jen, I'll turn it right over to you.
All right, thank you. So as Jen noted, Heather did meet with the audit committee back on 10th. She's the audit partner. So she went through all of the numbers, what they meant, answered however many questions there were. So this is going to be a very executive high level summary. And if at any point in time the board has any questions, certainly send those to Jen or myself. I'm more than happy to answer questions if you have them. So there are 3 pieces to the audit. There is the audit of the district financial statements. That has been issued as a final document so that you were able to upload it to the state by November 15th. There's the audit of the extra classroom activity funds that has also been run final. And then there's a single audit portion, which typically our firm compiles with the audit of the financial statement. It's all one document. This year, however, the Office of Management and Budget, who normally issues a compliance supplement sometime in May or June, decided to issue a compliance supplement the day before Thanksgiving. So we are not allowed to issue a single audit without that compliance supplement. That compliance supplement tells us what we are supposed to audit to. It tells us what the district is supposed to be doing with the grants. So without that guidance in that document, the AICPA actually tells us we're not allowed to issue those statements. So now that they have issued the compliance supplement, we have completed all of the work on our end. The single audit financial statements are going through their final review at our firm. We'll then send Jen the draft. She'll review it. She just needs to sign the rep letter for that. We'll issue that final. We'll get the data collection form done. Everything will be done by mid-January. I would like to have everything done before our office closes for Christmas. So we'll get that going. That'll be easy to finalize. And then the board will just need to accept that report once that's issued. So for the financial statement audit, we had an unmodified opinion on the financial statements. That's the highest level of assurance that we can give as your auditors. That provides reasonable but not absolute assurance. If we provided absolute assurance, we would never leave. So that would mean that we would look at every document, every transaction. That would just cost too much and take too long. We did have one finding related to the financial statement audit, and that was the unassigned fund balance exceeding 4% of next year's budget. The extra classroom audit, I am going to take a couple of minutes to talk about this one specifically. So the purpose of the extra classroom activity funds is to teach students about budgeting and to teach them about reconciling a checkbook and to teach them how to run, fundraisers and programs and things like that. There is very specific guidance from the state. It's available on NYSED's website. And very specific guidance as to how the district is to operate those funds, what signatures are required, what pieces of paper are required, what the students are required to do, what the faculty advisors are required to do. It's very detailed. That's what we use to do that audit because they're saying what needs to be done. So we make sure that those are the things that are being done. So a couple of things here. We do have a qualified opinion, and this is not unique to your district. And it is not something that the district has done wrong. It is not something that the district essentially has control over. So the nature of these funds is little Johnny is selling candy bars. Little Johnny sells 5, he collects $20. Did little Johnny give his teacher the full $20, and did the full $20 that's cash make it to the bank? So because these financial statements are cash basis, there's no way for us to audit what happens before the money hits the bank account. So that is our beginning point of audit. And that is why we have a qualified opinion. And it's really just that I don't think that there are controls that you could put into place that would mitigate that inherent risk of what happens to that $20. So again, not unique to your district. Every set of extra classroom financial statements that we issue has that qualified opinion. There was also a management letter that had some findings and recommendations. I cannot stress to you enough that your district, your extra classroom program is in fantastic shape. The number and instances of findings are minimal. One of the findings was completely related to one club. So I have some that it is pages and pages of findings. So I just want to stress to you that your program is running very well. And I think that your administration and the people who are overseeing that program are doing everything that they can to comply with what NICEAD says needs to be done. For the single audit, again, that's in draft. We do have an unmodified opinion on compliance for the major programs. We tested the special education cluster, and we did have one finding, and that's related to procurement. That's for verifying that vendors that you're paying with federal dollars are not suspended and debarred by the federal government. So that is a check that should be done annually, just because at any point in time, somebody could wind up on that list. So it's a very easy check. We've discussed it with management, and it's something that's very easy to fix. For a first year audit, I have to tell you this went incredibly smooth, and first year audits don't typically go smooth. So thank you very much to Jen and her team, because it's their diligence that really made it so that this was a successful audit and it went as well as it did. Any questions from the board?
I do have one question. You mentioned that the overall financial state audit is kind of at 50,000 because you can't go through all of it. Is the single audit, do you just pick one area to do a deep dive in that area just to make sure that the 50,000 foot represents what's happening on the ground?
Yes, but it's a very much calculated pick. So we have to fill out, we have practice aids that we fill out that do all kinds of things. We have to put all of your awards into that practice aid, and we look at what was tested in the past 2 years, what the dollar amounts of each award are, were there findings in those awards in the past, and then that's how we determine what program we're picking.
Thanks.
Just a comment. Thank you for the information. It's good to hear that the first year went well. Really good, strong team. I know Jen's here in the business office. And I'm glad you mentioned the piece about the extra classroom committee fund, because working with the ETA and the club advisors and those folks, there was a lot of work done in the past, because I think years ago we had the 60 pages and we went through a lot. And
Yeah.
you know, Mr. Harkin remembers, so it's the high school level. The amount of money is tremendous that comes through those clubs.
Absolutely.
And a lot of work was done, training. And I appreciate the club advisors for the work that they do. Sounds like a little bit of tweaking, and we're in really good shape. There's always going to be something happens, right? And
Absolutely.
you're gonna have some kind of
And-
finding. But the bigger piece is that, you know, I was concerned that we were slipping, and it sounds like we're not slipping. We're doing just as well, if not better. And I'm sure you had to work pretty hard to find some stuff.
Well, and here's what I found
Thank you.
in my 10 years
Oh,
at
advisor.
MMB is that inevitably our random sample, and it is a random sample, we put it into a software and we hit a button and it spits out our sample. Inevitably, that sample is going to come up with the 1 or 2 problem children that, you know, the district is going to be like, oh,
Right.
all of the other ones were good. It just seems to be how it happens. But I mean, your ECAF is in fantastic shape.
Good to hear. Yeah. Thank you. And is Michael Wolf still?
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah. So I guess we'll do some work with him and some training, the team training.
Yes, every year we do
Every
it.
year we do
Actually, it's
training.
coming up
A
soon.
little more emphasis on what happened in this one.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Good, thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, Holly.
So one of the things that we have been monitoring very closely at the secondary level, both at the middle school and the high school, is our implementation of distraction-free learning. I'm not going to steal too much of Holly's thunder, but one of the pieces that we had asked Holly as our ex officio board member rep to do is to really look for a meaningful survey that could be implemented amongst body to get an early temperature of what does this look like. Her work focused primarily on the high school, all in the high school. So she has some good data that she's going to report out for us tonight, just to give some feedback on quote unquote, how is it going? So with that, I'm going to turn it over to you, Holly.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm really happy to be able to share my data with everyone tonight. I'm very excited. As you know, this is my first presentation. So I'm really just very excited for this. Thank you for your time in advance. Yeah, so my clicker. I forgot. Oh, that's awesome. Okay. So as a quick introduction, with the help of Dr. Coates, Mr. Harkin, and Mrs. McFarland, I was able to distribute a survey asking all students to share how the statewide cell phone ban has affected them so far. So this survey was sent out to each student's school email via Google Forms in early October, and I received responses, I'd say, for roughly 2 weeks after that date. I asked a total of 6 questions on this survey. Questions were, I can just list them for you. So the first question was, do you think your classmates have been more focused during instruction times this year? The second question was, do you feel that you have been more focused during instruction times? The third question was a little bit more direct, and I did give reminders throughout this survey of anonymity, like no one is going to know who you are. I tried to keep it upbeat. I tried to keep everyone engaged, make it pretty quick. It was actually titled like quick survey. I just wanted to really maximize my response rate. So the third question, as I said, was a little bit more direct. It was, do you put your phone in your yonder pouch? So yeah, that was probably a little bit nerve-wracking if you were responding. So again, I just tried to make it as comfortable as possible for my respondents. But so the fourth and fifth questions and the sixth question were short answer responses. So the fourth question, if you answered no, why is this? Fifth question, if you answered most days, why is this? And the sixth question and the last question was, what would you like to see more of from our administrators and staff? So let me think here. Oh yeah, I wrote these questions just kind of keeping in mind like the things that Dr. Coates and I had talked about, like what we most wanted to gain insight on about what the students are thinking so far. So I want to note that I saw one minor limitation to the data set I gathered, but it was super minor. It was with a really select group of students who felt that the survey, that they couldn't trust whoever sent out the survey, that it wasn't anonymous. So I just had like a few throwaway responses like, oh, do you think we're dumb? You know, things like that. But it really was just very minor and just a couple of responses. So I don't think that it skewed my data or something like that. So I just wanted to note that anyway. So yeah, with this presentation, I just wanted to share, I just wanted to display my data as accurately as possible, voice the opinions of the general student body. Should not say holistic. I got a little too big for my britches there. That is not the correct use of that word. Okay, moving on. Okay, so I added this slide on here just to give everyone the perspective of, you know, as if you were taking the survey. So this is just 3 examples of some things that people saw while they were taking the survey. I gave the first example is a multiple choice question. So that was, do you put your phone in your yonder pouch? And then the little reminder that the survey was anonymous that I gave. So they had 3 multiple choice options: no, yes, every day, and most days. The second example shows an example of one of the short answer questions. What would you like to see more of? I even gave a little smiley face. I was trying to be very, I don't know, welcoming, I guess. So it's a short answer, and then thank you. After they completed it, they got the thank you. So on these next 2 slides, these are 2 data visualizations that Mr. Kilmartin and I worked on together. So this first bar graph shows the yonder pouch usage by grade. So on the y-axis, we have percentage of responses. The x-axis, each little cluster of columns here are the different grades. So I apologize if the numbers are a little bit hard to read, but we have grade 9 in the class enrollment, along with the number of responses I received, and then grade 10 with the same 2 figures below, grade 11 and grade 12. So the fuchsia column represents yes, I use my underpouch every day. The blue column represents no. And the green column represents, I use my underpouch most days. So you can interpret that one as you will. I just wanted to give people a little bit of cushion for the people who were inevitably going to be in between the everyday and the no. So that's why I included that on there. But as we can see, the general trend of this first graph here is as students are aging, there's a steady decline in the use of the underpouch, and vice versa. The freshmen, are using it a lot more according to data. So, yeah. Okay. And then moving on to the second graph that Mr. Comartin and I worked on together, we have the same Y and X axes. And then this one is for the student focus during instructional time, which was the first two questions on the survey. Do you think your classmates have been more focused? And do you think you have been more focused? So once again, the fuchsia column represents yes, and then the blue column represents no, I do not feel that I have been more focused, nor have my classmates been more focused during instructional time. So you can interpret this graph as you will. Give everyone a moment to look at this. And then so now we're going to move into the actual contents of the responses that I received for each survey. I'm going to be outlining each class's survey individually. This is kind of where me sending out the 4 different surveys comes into play because it made it a lot easier for organizational purposes. When I'm analyzing each class, I just felt it was best to present the data to everyone in this way. So this is the freshman survey. I received 116 responses. We go back. Just want to look at the freshman enrollment. Okay. Just curious. So the freshman survey, again, 116 responses. And then for the question, do you put your phone in your yonder pouch? 53.4% of respondents said yes every day, 23.3% most days, and then another 23.3% no. For the question, do you feel that you have been more focused during instruction times this year? 44% of respondents said yes, and 37.9% said no. And as you probably noticed, 44% plus 37.9% does not equal 100%. So almost all of the students who make up that missing percentage responded using a short answer option that I included on my form. So I read through each of those responses individually, but again, I wanted to add sort of an extra cushion, an extra option for people who didn't feel that they fit into just the yes or just the no category. I wanted not to just make it black and white. So those people I read through individually, each response almost all said the same thing, and that was my focus nor my classmates' focus has not changed. So they said that their focus is the same as before. That's pretty much what everyone in the missing percentage said. So I just wanted to make that clear. And then for each class's survey, I broke down some, I'm not going to read these verbatim because there are quite a few on here, but I broke down some of the quotes that I got from students within the short response questions that I thought were the most valuable. So some of the reoccurring themes.
I'm just reading your comment. The one about the weed in the bathroom.
Oh yes, yeah, that's a good one, right?
To be honest.
I really tried to put the ones on here that I felt like were the most valuable for everyone to see, and things that you might not think about as a person who is somewhat isolated from the school. Like I wanted to insert everybody into the school because I feel like that sort of is my role, to bridge the gap between student and administrator. So I was trying to do that to the best of my ability. I feel like these quotes all just really stood out to me in one way or another. So some of the most common themes within the freshman survey were worries about safety during an emergency, worries about school shootings, and how the yonder pouch might hinder safety during a school shooting. Teachers having a yonder pouch opener in each classroom. That was something that a lot of freshmen expressed interest in. and also teachers needing to follow and administrators needing to abide by the same expectations as students in terms of not using their phones in school, which I thought was actually a very interesting idea. So I added that in there as well. And these slides will also be in the minutes in case anyone wants to go back and look at every quote. You're welcome to do that. I read through so many and they were all really interesting. It was hard to choose what to put on here. They were all very interesting. So moving into the sophomore survey, this is my highest response rate. I had 124 responses. For the question, do you put your phone in your yonder pouch? 49.2% of respondents said yes every day. 26.6% said most days, and 24.2% said no. For the question, do you feel that you have been more focused during instruction times this year? 22.6% of respondents said yes, and 53.2% said no. And then again, almost all the students that make up the missing percentage said that their focus and their classmates' focus have not changed. So that's the same as before. Moving into the notable quotes from the sophomore survey, some of the most common themes here were expressing desire to have access to the cell phones during free periods. And then again, security, feeling a sense of security, especially during times of crisis. Again, like a big recurring theme. A lot of kids were really expressing this view. Yeah. Oh, someone said they feel like they're being controlled rather than trusted, which was a little bit sad. So I wanted to put that on there. Oh, yeah. And then this one was very interesting. Someone mentioned getting their period during school and not being able to contact a parent, which I thought was maybe something that not everyone here has, and myself included, has thought about. So I don't know. I thought that was interesting. Maybe in the future, if we're still operating under the Yonder Pouch system, we could have some sort of medical emergency or medical situation communication system set up. I don't know. I thought that was a really interesting quote though, so I added that on there as well. And then before we move into the upperclassmen surveys, does anyone have any questions about any of that? Okay, I don't know if that's like a good sign or a bad sign.
Good sign.
Good sign.
No,
Okay,
it's
good.
very clear. It's very good. Keep going, Ollie. It's really, really good information.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate that. Thank you. Okay, so next is the junior survey. We had 94 responses. For the question, do you put your phone in your yonder pouch? 42.1% of respondents said yes every day. 11.6% said most days, which I thought was unusually low, but and 46.3% of students said no. For the question, do you feel that you've been more focused during instruction times this year? 29.5% of respondents said yes, and 52.6% said no. And again, the missing percentage is the same situation as the two previous surveys, with kids saying our focuses are the same. And for the notable quotes for the junior survey, I really only had 3 main ones that stood out to me a lot that I wanted to include here. So I think that I will just read these verbatim for everybody. I don't understand why the unlock magnets are gone so early after school. If they could be left out for the sports kids, that would be a lot better. Thought that was valuable. Somehow I've been talked to more times about my MP3 player than the kids who call me slur and slur. During study halls or free period, being allowed to have our phones, because I feel like students sometimes just need a break, even if it's as simple as listening to music.
So Holly, on this
Yeah.
first one, how does that after school, like how does that work after school with sports or other activities?
And that's a great question. So after school, the unlock magnets, the underpouch magnets that are on the wall, are taken away rather quickly.
Okay.
So there's like a way that they all attach to the wall and they can be unscrewed. So certain like staff members come around at the end of the day after dismissal and they detach them from the wall. So it is kind of before a lot of the sports kids who, maybe have to go get their bags from the locker room or things like that have a chance to unlock their phones. So it can be like a little bit cumbersome for those,
Then what do
folks.
they do?
What do they do? They have to go ask someone,
Oh,
can I
okay.
unlock my phone?
Yeah.
Like they have to go into Mr. Harkin's office or into the like the front space by the vestibule with those women in there, and I think that they have a magnet, so they would have to ask like a staff member. Yeah, good question. Thank you. And then moving into our last survey here. So I had 67 responses from the seniors, so not quite as high as the other 3, but they're trying. For the question, do you put your phone in your yonder pouch? 26.9% of students said yes every day. 16% of respondents, so 18 students. 16.4% of respondents said most days, and 56.7% said no. So at least they were being honest. And for the question, do you feel that you have been more focused during instruction times this year? 40.3% said yes, and 49.3% said no. Again, the same thing as before with the missing percentage. And then this is the last batch of quotes that we have. Actually, that's not true. Just, the senior quotes. So the main themes here. Again, the emergency thing, and then this was interesting. Kids saying that they don't feel like they should have to use the yonder pouch if they either weren't part of the problem before, or if they don't go on their phone anyway, if it's just in their bag. Yeah, more opportunity for students who use their phone for other services, such as work and/or parental communication. Just an idea. Thought that was interesting. And then I would like to end just on a positive note here, because I understand that not everything I brought from the students were glowing outcomes about the yonder pouches in schools. So I want to end on a positive. I thought this quote was really interesting. It was a quote from the sophomore survey. It was in response to what would you like to see more of from staff and administrators? They answered more games in the board games closet. And I put this on here because I just feel like fulfilling this even very simple, genuine request from a student shows that we are listening to them. I think it would be inexpensive. I'm sure we all have random old games in our house that we don't use anymore. So I don't know. I just thought that this was just it was a great idea. I've seen it with my own eyes in the library, kids being very engaged with each other when playing board games from the games closet. So I just thought it was a great idea and a great way to show kids we're listening. It would be nice if my voice was heard. Thank you to the junior student who said this. This is exactly what I'm trying to do. And definitely we are listening. So thank you for saying this. And then truthfully, I can't think of anything. I think you guys are doing pretty great so far. Keep it up. That one speaks for itself. So that was a great quote to end with, I thought. Lastly, I just want to thank you all for your time and everyone who made this presentation possible. It was a really valuable learning opportunity for me. If anyone has any questions or comments, don't hesitate to reach out. That's my email address. So thank you for your time.
Good job.
Paula, I have a question for you. So if we go back to, let's see, it's slide 4.
Okay.
So you had noted how the freshmen and the sophomores are the most likely to use the pouches every day. And then the juniors and the seniors. If we go back one more slide. So I'm wondering though, is that because the sophomores and the freshmen are the ones who had a cell phone ban in middle school? That lines up there. So I'm wondering if that is just, we're seeing the impact of them coming up through the cell phone. I'd be curious to do this again next year and see if that magenta moves.
Well, that sounds like more of a Will question then. Great point, actually. I hadn't even thought of that myself. So I'm really glad you pointed that out. I think that's a really great thought.
I'm curious. And
yeah,
I think
me too.
next year, if we see that
question.
move, that might tell us that, because the current 10th graders were the first ones to have the cell phone ban in middle school.
Right.
So they came to high school used to it. It was their normal.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if it's where we're seeing a little bit more of hesitation in the juniors and seniors, if that's just that it's more of a change.
Right. So you're wondering if the hesitation is a result of them being juniors and seniors, or if it's a result of them not
how
being used to
different it
it.
is to them
Yeah.
versus it isn't as much of a change. And
Right.
for our ninth
Yeah.
graders, isn't a change at all. The yonder pouch is the only thing that's different, but they didn't have their phones at
Yeah.
school. So to them, that's normal.
That's a great question. Yeah, I think that'd be a great idea to.
So
to
Will,
do
when
this
you
again
follow up
next
on
year.
this next year.
Yeah, great question. Thank you. Does anyone else have any other questions?
Yeah, I did. Do students realize that this was a New York State requirement, not really a district administrative like dictate? We're not punishing kids. We're trying to
I-
fulfill the policy and the requirements of the state. So
Yeah, I mean, I
any
I don't know if I can
sense-
accurately speak for every student in this response, but I really don't know actually if
Yeah.
everybody knows that.
So Will, yes, next year, I guess I would be curious to add a question where we ask the students to explain their understanding of the New York State policy.
That's a
Because
a good
I'm
idea.
wondering is, New
He's
York
writing
State
this down.
says bell to bell. They didn't say
Yes.
yonder pouches, but according to New York
Yeah.
State, we are not allowed to let you have it in lunch or free period, or allowed to let you have a break during the day. That's not us. That was the governor and the state.
Right, yeah.
So I'm just curious, have we not conveyed that adequately?
If you'd like, I can. That's a really great point that you bring up, and you as well, Mike. If you'd like, I can read the short blurb that everybody was given before they took the survey. I didn't include that on here, but it would have been smart in hindsight. But this is what it said. So it said, if you're a senior, it would say, "Hi, seniors," and then everything else is the same from here on out. We want to hear your perspectives on how the statewide school cell phone ban and our school's use of the yonder pouches has impacted you and your classes this year. These responses will be 100% anonymous, be as open and honest as possible. Thank you so much for your help. So that was what everyone read before taking the survey.
So statewide is there, but not necessarily any explanation of what does that mean by definition.
Right.
And I don't know if it's us giving, if it's you giving an explanation versus just us assessing our understanding of it, because it is partially on us to educate on it and to explain. So just a thought for going forward. I'm wondering if we changed how we educated on it, would that change the reaction to it?
For students that don't use the yonder pouch, like what are they doing? Like this doesn't necessarily, I mean, this would make it seem like there's a lot of violations happening, which I don't know if that's the case.
Really, they're in their bags.
Okay.
Lately, I've seen like a couple kids who've gotten a little crazy with like AirPods. Like, oh, I'm listening to my Chromebook. Don't allow AirPods. You have to have wired cords plugged into your Chromebook to listen to music. That's been our latest battle. We had a faculty meeting Monday. We asked the faculty to help support us. We're gonna start bag checks tomorrow in the cafeteria. While they're at lunch with us, just show us their pouches. The other thing that worries me about the people that aren't using their pouches is they're $30 each, and if they've lost them in December, we're gonna do it in June when we come back. I think Holly's survey is accurate, but we're not seeing the distraction. And we have two teachers here, are not out. And like they were like before, it was like this. You would go by a classroom, you see them have their head up and down, checking their Snapchats.
This is true.
We don't have the same number, and there was comments about vaping, but we don't have the same number of vaping incidents that we had last year. We don't have the same number of fights. We don't have the same number of bullying and harassment. And I got a phone call today from a parent who said, my daughter has her phone out. She keeps texting me. You need to go take it from her. We have parents that are, I was like astonished when I called her down. She was like mortified. She was I'm like, mother just texts her like nonsense, like, oh, Rob's staring at me in the cafeteria. Well, if it's that big of a deal, you'll bring it up at 2:30 when you come home. But because they have that phone, it's a big deal at that moment. You got to tell the parent. You got to tell somebody else. We've had other parents that have come to us and said that last year there was a thing where people were rating outfits. So every time girls came into school, someone would rate their outfit. And those girls that didn't want to come to school or were choosing to come late, so they would have to see that line of eyes that were rating their outfit every day. We're getting instantaneous, I hate your skirt, and then 800 likes in the next 5 minutes. Like that's how people were starting the day. We've gotten rid of all of that. But we don't want to have fatigue right now where they're not using their pouches. So we are going to start going back to having, we do check them in the mornings. You know, like today, we had the weather, so we didn't get to the classrooms to check them. Tomorrow, we're gonna do them in the cafeteria. We do have minors that check the bathroom every day because that's what we thought they'd be using them. So I think that's kind of why we don't have as many people using them in bathrooms. I think this would also help cut down on the problems there. Because I have a female and a male monitor that go around every day. Like the girls hate Heather. They just like go like, she's in the bathroom every day. I'm like, oh, your job is make sure you're not vaping and using your phone in there. So I think it's really been a very, very positive experience for us, and it's definitely changed our culture in high school.
Mr. Harkin, I know I didn't ask you to bring the data, but we had discussed the number of infractions that you've seen. They were substantially lower than really we anticipated they would be. Is that correct?
Yeah, we're like 161 for the year. There's only like 6 or 7 kids that are chronic offenders. So 161, you take away 6, you have 155 individuals out of 1,300. You're right around 10%.
Yeah.
And those initial numbers have dropped since the beginning of the year?
Yeah. You're like 100 in the first month, so we only had 65 over the last 2 months. And it's all juniors and seniors. They, you know, the senior, especially the seniors that drive right up and lie to us. Oh, my phone's in my car. I can bring it in. You know, we don't. Some metal detecting kids at the door would be a bad look too. You know what I mean? You don't pick up your child or sick with a health officer on neck, blinding people with cell phones. That's really odd. We've thought about all these things, and then someone to say like they needed their phone to call their house if there's a medical emergency. There's 151 landlines in the building, so there's definitely availability for you to find the phone in every single classroom and multiple in every office. And, you know, although I'm not a girl and have to experience that, I would imagine that the phone that's 6 feet to the right on the wall is just as useful as the one that's in my hand. Or the nurse's office. I bet you like 20 of the referrals that we've gotten for our kids that go to the nurse's office and they say, what is your mother's number? And they take their phone on their back because they don't know their parents. Like, they're catching themselves too. You know, I probably have to
That's a great perspective. I appreciate that perspective because I think in the moment of the survey, students look at their own microcosm of their classroom or their peers versus what you're seeing at a macro level across the whole high school community. So it's definitely, you see the things changing and happening. Maybe the students don't see it as much, but it's happening. And so it's,
Yeah.
It's still
It's
new
positive
and raw
results.
for them. Yeah.
Yeah.
I really
Discipline
appreciate
data
the
being
information and the work that you
interesting
guys
to
did
look
on this, Holly.
Well, and they're saying they're
Thank
not
you.
necessarily more focused, but I know when I was in school before cell phones, there were plenty of us who weren't focused. It was different things distracting us. It might have been like a bird outside the window or no writing notes and shooting little paper footballs. There are always distractions. So maybe it's a different distraction than it used to be.
Yeah, I absolutely think it's different. I mean, it's just it's a more brain consuming addictive kind of distraction than anyone has ever seen before. So
Yes.
I agree with you that there will always be distractions, but I personally, as a student in the classroom, have seen like a humongous improvement. And I know I'm biased because I have the chance to be in classes with a lot of really high level people. And I know that not everybody like doesn't think about their phone well in class as like many of my classmates do. And I understand that, but just from my perspective, I have seen a big difference.
I think the school safety thing is interesting. You know, I think obviously cell phones are the kind of like the worst thing to have in a school shooting. And I don't know if there's ways to train around that or message around that. But I mean, it seems like the theme.
That is the theme.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we
Good.
recently had craze training for every student last week at the break. That was one of the things that Dr. Bondino brought up is like the last thing you want to do is take your phone out.
Yep.
You need to listen to the highly trained teacher in front of you that's going to tell you where to go, what to do. It also, it is shown to lock down lines, so that therefore the police that are relying on cell phones and radio communications, we have 1,000 kids trying to text the parent immediately. So they did cover that in the training. And then another thing too, just, you know, there are 2 permanent magnets in the vestibule by the front of the building and next to Mr. Jones's office that kids can unlock at any time. And we had an incident in 2021 where a student put 2 bullets behind our bathroom and we had to go into a lockdown and search rooms, and we had faculty members going to rooms taking kids to the bathroom. So we had 15 magnets. We could probably unlock the building in under 10 minutes if we had to. We had 100% compliance. It doesn't take long at all. Just have to hold it over the right now we do control the department, the village superintendent will make sure you provide so you know what's going on, other than the student saying, I think
Right.
it's a problem.
Yeah.
And like the comment too about like me having my phone, I get that all the time, but like I had to call 911 just for health went down, you know, I have to write kids' passes in the hallway. Dr. Coach made me get home. So I use my phone. I'm not out like checking my Snapchats in the hallway. I'm taking phone calls from people. I take phone calls. So we tried to model that behavior to explain that to them. So, you know, I know that they're right. They're like, you're punishing all of us because of the certain number of kids, but we really have tried to explain that to them. We had great communication that went out this summer that did include it. This was a New York State mandate for applying it for distraction free. So this was the best approach for us.
Holly, we asked you to do this less than 10 weeks into school. Your data collection point was October. Do you think if this happened later in the year, that the emotion, the opinion, it may change where there's more maybe complacency to it? Or do you think that the opinion has stayed fairly steadfast? I know you're just getting anecdotal information now. You're not doing survey collection at December 5th, whatever it is, 4th. Do you think it would change over time?
That's a great question. I do not think it would change over time. I think that these, I don't want to say the wrong thing
Sure.
or say something that the data doesn't back up, but I feel like a lot of kids especially are pretty rooted in their ideals and the things that their parents might be saying to them at home, and the things that they're talking about amongst their friends. And I really just think kids especially are a very stubborn group. And I think that if they don't want to use the undercrutch for one reason or another, they're probably pretty rooted in whatever ideal is driving that, like the sense of security thing. I think a lot of kids don't understand what you were saying about having your phone in a school shooting, what you were saying, Mr. Herc was saying. A lot of kids don't really understand that. So I don't know. I don't know. I mean, if there was, but like Kathy, you're saying, if there's a way to like make people understand certain things more, like if we could apply what you said maybe to the idea of like the sense of security and why that might not be the best idea to be on your phone during an active shooter threat. Like if we can apply what you said, educating kids more on why maybe they should be using it, then maybe the data would change. So I think it depends on what we would have done in that time period, whether or not the data would change. I don't know.
Understand. Makes sense.
Okay.
But there were the concerns about medical emergencies, and I'm just kind of wondering, is it actually better if students go to the nurse first? Because the nurse would then coordinate with the parents. So you'd have the parents and a medical professional on site knowing what's happening. It makes me actually a little nervous that someone's having a medical emergency and nobody on the ground can help them, or what if something's it seems like maybe it would be good to
100%. The nurse in the building serves a defined purpose. I agree 100%. And I
that
just
might be
want
better for student safety than
I want to
just
sew the line
parent.
between emergency and need, perhaps.
Yeah.
You know, I think what Holly shared was more of a need versus an emergency. I
Yeah.
think definitively our nurses are attending to emergencies for regular things that are health and hygiene issues. I don't understand, I'm not a female, but those issues that come up where they may not want to go to the nurse, they have a comfort level with a parent or a loved one. I understand that perspective.
So do I. I understand it, especially as being someone who gets my period in school and sometimes wants to text my mom about it and I can't. So, so I do understand. But I also think what you're saying is cool too, in a way, because maybe we could make the nurse something like different. Like we could make the nurse something like that people feel like they could go to for more mundane things or things that aren't like, I have a laceration, you know, like maybe we should make kids feel like, maybe if I just got my period, I can go to the nurse and no one's going to make fun of me because it's a small thing. Like maybe that would actually be really beneficial because then people wouldn't feel the need to be taking their phone out and they could just go to the nurse. So that actually is a super good perspective. So I agree with what you're saying. Anything else?
I just want to say, Holly, I've done surveys before and how you phrase questions and engage people is hard. And it seems like you did a really good job in making
you
it
so much.
succinct. And I think it was very wise to send out 4 different surveys. Otherwise you were just aggregating a lot of data. So that was, it gave us a really good
picture of what's going on and how the students feel. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much. My mom helped me with the questions. She is a very talented, smart lady, so she helped me a little bit. Yeah, a lot
Your
actually.
response rate is actually pretty good.
I
I know
thought so too. Thank you.
It might feel like, oh, they didn't all do it, but that's actually a good response rate for something.
Well,
like
that is
this.
what my mom said.
And she-
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Very good. Well done, Holly. Thank you. Okay, so next I'm going to invite our partners from Labella and Turner. As we had discussed at our last meeting, we had to make some final decisions regarding the sewer and sanitary work that has to be completed at Red Mill. And there was some defined information that we needed to get to the board tonight. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Marchese to walk us through our presentation.
Oh, it's a Marchese. Sorry about that. We will get there, Dr. Coates. Good evening, everybody. So I apologize for not a fancy, exciting presentation today, but unfortunately, comes with the job. So I believe a previous board meeting, Director of Facility, Mr. Bickel, explained some concern and some incident that are going on at the Red Mill Elementary School sanitary line. And so at the time, we didn't have a lot of facts and any kind of recommendation. I know you guys had a lot of questions. So we ask to give us some time to collect information, investigate, put it together a plan, and then come with the recommendation. So that's what we did. Just a quick summary. The original building was erected in 1953. From there, there have been some addition, but the sanitary line was never kind of upgrade or upsize with all the addition of plumbing fixture that been done through the years. During the building condition survey that was done a few years ago, last building condition survey, unfortunately, their line was classified as satisfactory. So, we will go through why was done in that way. Not people not doing their diligence. It's just because the line is degrading from inside out. So only putting a lot of effort and put a lot of money on a scope out of the line, they could come up and kind of prevent this kind of damage that we are right now. So we did because in the last couple months there've been few circumstances that the line is backing up inside of the lower level classroom. We did what we should have done before was to scope out the line, but like I said, nobody knew at the time. So we scope out the line. It was discovered that the line is degrading from inside out. So what happened, the interior wall are following the scaling. So what happened that those scaling create almost like a traction through any kind of material goes to the line, and they create the backup. And so instead the flow, it's all, and the thing that you should know about sanitary line, everything gets gravity. So it's not, there is a pump or anything else. So if anything block, will come back up. So from that part, we did the investigation, and we come up with some temporary measure because the school obviously was a risk of closing and a safety and health issue for the occupants, staff, and student. So currently, the Mr. Bickel team did a couple based on our recommendation between Turner and Labella, we put our head together. We had some contractor go and visit the school, and currently we replace 60 feet from the line that was collapsing, and we also implement some check valve so to prevent backing of the sanitary line. While we were doing all this, we as a design team, we start to put it together a final solution for the problem. Also, Turner collect information from contractor to see what kind of magnitude of finance impact we will have. But also with the district official, we were trying to decide how to address the issue, what kind of venue financially impact, and also for the timeline, what was the best way to do it. So one of the venue was to put that scope of work that was identified in a capital project. But because the capital project in last year in 2024 there was specific line items included. So we went back to the bond council, the district bond council, and we asked what kind of criteria the scope need to, and the financial impact need to meet to make sure that we are in compliance with all the municipal law and we are in compliance with the capital improvement project that was voted in May 2024. So bond council give us 4 criteria that we have to meet. So I will go through and then we will evaluate how we come up with our recommendation. So first one was the project scope. So the scope need to be related to the original scope that was voted in May 2024. Second was funding availability. So is the current funding available enough to cover the scope of work? Then project viability. So if we take the money and we use to do the scope of work, will take away some of the scope that was approved in that vote. And last but not least is the secret compliance. So had state the environmental act that any district, any public work would need to do a statement. We have to make sure that that scope of work was included in the secret. So as a project scope, so collectively, the district, Turner, Labella, and the bond council, we had the multiple meeting and we went through scope, original scope. So the original scope currently has an upgrade of plumbing fixture and bathroom as a scope. So now you're going to add additional plumbing fixture on a system that is already undersized and it is close to collapse. So from that point, from our personal and professional opinion, we recommend, yes, it's part of this, it's directly related to the scope, because we cannot do that one part unless we fix what is it's broken or it's close to collapse. As part of the finance, we actually I'm jumping a little bit around. I apologize for that. So the project scope we evaluate. So there is an upsize of the current pipe. So we go from 6 inches to 8 inches, just because in the previous years all the pipeline was not upgraded with all the work was done, and all the existing lateral are going to be connected to this new line. So we talk about the integration to the capital project. Our professional opinion is that it's directly related to that. So from a finance standpoint, we had the surplus. So we are closing phase 1A, and we have a surplus of $1,053,598,000. So our partner with some of the contractors, they give us a magnitude of the cost of the work that is close to $425,000. So from this standpoint, we feel like we can use this surplus to pay off this additional scope that wasn't original plan. And last but not least is the secret. Like I mentioned, we went through all the resolution, and we looked at the language in the resolution, and there was enough plumbing work upgrade in the resolution that we feel that if the board decide to move forward, include this part of the scope in the capital project, will still be in compliance with the original resolution. So we didn't have to do an amendment to the original secret. So as conclusion, we collectively as a team, we recommend to replace the original line, upsize the line, do the connection to the new plumbing fixture. They are part of the original scope, and be financially available. It's critical because you are in a situation that the line is close to collapse. So you will kind of be in a situation you will be closing the school. And there will not be any legal alteration. So at this point, that's our recommendation. I believe we have a resolution from our bond council that you will be voting later. But at this point, if you guys have any question, we will be happy to answer anything that you want to add. No, you did do well. Did I do good? Thank you.
All of the cast iron piping will be replaced by PVC.
Yes.
So the 60 feet that you did already can stay in place.
Actually, that was done pretty quick and was done in a way just to make sure that the school can stay open for a period of time. So that part is going to be replaced because we will provide additional pipe vent, because also those, they were jeopardized during the year.
Should the board approve and go forward, what's the timing of the project?
So that's a great question. So that's the reason we tried. We are in jeopardy, but also we kind of lucky. Red Mill is currently outside on the street for bidding, and we are collecting bid on December 18 with the hope that we will have a recommendation for the board the first board meeting of January. We will move as fast as possible, and
so the goal would be to get the recommendation from the board. I think it's January 14th, somewhere in that time frame. Get contracts executed, and the goal would be to start in mid-February, really right around February break.
Yeah. The temporary fixes will just monitor and
it is exactly so. The temporary fixing is going to be need monitoring weekly.
Helen.
Yes.
I think it's important to note that the district went ahead. We bought our own camera system.
Right.
Okay.
We checked the line. We called today, so the system needs to be evacuated again. So they're trying to clear it because they could see the buildup coming again.
Whatever temporary measures need to be put in place or.
So buildings and ground is increasing in concern about the viability of the system, which we talked about this in our regular meeting yesterday. So we're on top of it to the best of our ability.
Yeah. Any additional question? All right. Thank you.
Very good.
Thank you.
Before we leave, I want to say thank you to James. I think your Patty's going to be taking over. And thank you for your work on the project this last several months and working with the team, and best of luck.
Thank you very much.
Oh, it's not.
We know we're in good hands. Patty and Mike are here.
Moving on to discussion items, board direction for budget development.
So as part of the budget planning process and the budget calendar that was adopted by the board tonight was for the district administration to receive any direction from the board on priority items, hopefully in line with both the strategic plan and the board goals that were set. Anything specific or anecdotal that you want us to be cognizant of as we start to develop a board to present to you from both the building and the district administration. We have distributed the budget books to the building and the district administrators with the intent of, if any changes came outside of what is in the strategic plan or the board goals, that we would come back to them. But this is a time where we would really like any feedback or direction beyond what's there from the board, so that when we start to bring budget proposals to you for adoption for 26-27, we're purposeful, it's meaningful, and we're in line with what the board is looking for to present to the public for a vote in May.
I jotted a couple of things down. Just going through the strategic plan, I think focusing on the things that were kind of coming up in the kind of more immediate future. And just a couple of things that stood out, and I'll actually sort of try to rank them. And I think this is also based on some emails and even some actions tonight. I mean, I think just being more intentional about our kind of investments in kind of mental health and counseling, and just making sure we have the right resources there across our programs and across our schools, and really just kind of thinking about that. I think it came up in the last budget process too. And we, made some shifts there that we may now need to revisit. And so I think that's an important piece. I think the kind of connection of students to workforce opportunities, and just making sure that, maybe we're kind of getting ahead of that, or doing, what we can do in that space, just sort of recognizing affordability of four-year programs or four-year colleges, and just, I think the trend that we're seeing, and how do we really support that? And I think we've done a pretty good job of that, but just continue to kind of have other pathways than to kind of four-year programs. And then I think there, across the blueprint, there's a lot of goals and, strategy around just professional development and kind of investment in the workforce. And I think that's, obviously always important, but as we start to really maybe head towards kind of a turnover in staff, how do we have that foundation for good professional development and mentorship programs and other things to be prepared for maybe a, transitioning workforce. And then lastly, I'll just put the big bucket around transportation. I think it's been sort of an Achilles heel, probably everywhere, just enough drivers, and we've got the whole EV thing, and just, so those are just kind of four things that sort of stood out to me.
Thank you.
And Sam spoke to several that I was going to speak to, but I really wanted to think about professional development, but specifically around the pathways and kind of the new pathways and preparing for that. I think that, professional development comes up so much in the strategic plan, and investing in our workforce is the best way to impact the most students. When you think about how many students each teacher has contact with. So I'd love to see that. And again, with transportation, we talked about needing to do some studies on our transportation center and looking at that. So I know that will cost some money, but I think we need to do that because we need to get that study done before we can even think about how we're moving forward with EV. And then also, with what we heard with Red Mill, the words deferred maintenance have come up a few times. And so maybe kind of in terms of the operations and facilities, just kind of thinking about that and how we could, if there's any other areas we need to potentially think about moving forward, so that we don't end up with that type of issue again.
Thank you.
I think those are all, good aspirational areas to look at. One of the things that we know that as a board and when we go through the process is that, 85% of our budget is driven by our staffing expenses and benefits. And not knowing what those are to look like and the trends are not good. I think there's a health insurance review committee recently, right? That we're going to review. So I don't know what that entails in terms of information, but it's really those costs, those fixed costs that we counter to support our staffing and support our benefits and provide those for our staff, and what is left over really to be able to afford within reason the different things that we want to accomplish. And I think that's critical. So there's got to be some prioritization of some of the things that were just brought up right now. I think the district has always been very, very supportive of PD, given the number of days that we have for professional development for the district staff, the levels of commitment financially. We see the summer curriculum things that we do. So a lot of good things are happening. I think just to maybe adjust those to focus on the priority things, as Heather mentioned, the priority of portrait to graduate, some of the other work that was mentioned in the goals that Lisa's talked about in previous meetings. I really think that given that the district went above the tax cap and looking at the voting numbers from that and the EV buses, it was, we got the 65%, we needed 60 to get to 65, but that's the lowest we've had in a long time. And that was a pretty high tax rate. So I think, given what the tax cap calculation is going to look like, staying within the tax cap to the best of our ability to be able to fund the primary things first, our staff, our benefits, infrastructure is critical. And then I think, maximizing BOCES aid to the best we can do. And even evaluating some of the services that we contract. Do we need those services? Can we do them internally better? Or do we go outside to get the aid and maximize what we're getting back from the state in terms of those things? I want to make sure we continue to provide opportunities for career tech, as someone mentioned here. We've seen that grow, and I think that our students are taking advantage of the opportunities that we've provided to them. Class size always comes up in these conversations. It's a difficult conversation, depending on the level you're talking about. We have guidelines, contractual guidelines. We've been well within those guidelines for many years. I want to be able to maintain those, but I think sometimes we have to take a look at whether we need to shift some of those class sizes, tweak them a little bit to make sure that we're again maximizing our resources to provide. Again, these are things that we want to do as part of our board goals and district goals. So I'm not saying that we're making any changes. Just recommending that we continue to look at those from an affordability perspective, knowing where we have kept the classroom sizes in terms of numbers for many years. So I think those are some of the general ideas I jotted down as we get early in the process to give you some guidance. I would ask that the administrators look carefully at their budgets, their building budgets, to make sure that they understand what the board's priorities and district priorities are. This is not a year to be asking for more, I would say. But ask the right questions framed around what we just talked about. I think, given those kinds of things, it may not be a people issue in terms of increase, but maybe it's a different type of, solution to some of the things that you need to support your students and your staff in the building. So be creative, be innovative, and we'll do the best we can to support your work.
Thank you. This is a follow-up. One of the things that we're intentionally doing differently this year in the process. It looks different in every school district, but procedurally, many times central administration will meet with each individual building administrator and or department administrator. This year, our intent is to meet in grade level bands. So those collective conversations that you're referencing on perhaps not needing more, but doing things differently. We can have an elementary conversation. We can have a secondary conversation. And how do the fixed costs relate to that? How can we use our staff differently to accomplish new goals?
I would echo other people have mentioned the clinical needs, right? So we've seen some decisions that were made that we're now confronted with having concerns about staffing has been very challenging. So that area. I also, UPK was a very hot topic in the last budget cycle, and there was a lot of distress and concern. I'm wondering if there's data on the feedback of the success of the program and the impact of the UPK so that we can make informed decisions regarding that, so we can really kind of balance that conversation, support those programs.
One of the challenges of UPK, as many of you already know, the cost of the program far outpaces the funding that we're getting from the state. As much as we've gone to our community providers who are doing their best to keep their costs down, at the end of the day, they have fixed costs as well. And we're doing everything we can to try to balance that. Piece of anecdotal data that we can talk about right up front is the fact that historically we still have more applicants for the program than we do seats. We're getting better. We're almost to the point where everyone's getting placed now, but it is something that the district is challenged by every year.
Is this year the reimbursement rate going to be higher? No.
I think it's the same, right?
5,400.
5,400. Yeah.
So they had talked about raising
They
it,
talked
but
They
talked
the
about
cost
it,
of the
but
staff
it didn't
It
happen.
didn't make it.
Correct.
No.
Correct. So this is very helpful for us to get started. This will help us go back to set our priorities when we begin to meet with the administrative staff. We already have calendared for the beginning of January to begin these conversations. I think it's very much in line with what we've seen with the strategic plan and the board goals. So thank you. That makes our process far more focused. And we will be sure that as we get into the process, we hit all the benchmarks that we've already established in the budget calendar. Along the way, if new ideas, if thoughts come up, please continue to communicate those with us, because we want to make sure that, as I said in the beginning, what we bring to you is focused on the goals on what you want to see. We want to make sure that we're making those checks and we don't deviate anywhere from the priorities that we are collectively focused on. So this is very helpful and appreciated.
Just a quick comment, question. In light of the conversation and Jennifer, how are we gonna approach the budget? Like last year, you essentially did a rollover budget from the previous year. We're taking a deeper dive before we're gonna do that. Before we decide to kind of roll over just an a percentage.
Yeah, so in January, part of the process is, getting our staff and benefits based on our contractual agreements and the anticipated increases in health insurance and the retirement contributions. So based on our current program, we'll start to build the budget based on that. And just what those new costs, those increased costs are just related to our current program.
And just as a follow-up to that, Jen and I actually had, snow day was good timing yesterday because we actually had some uninterrupted time to work on this. One of the things that we had both agreed upon is that there's some structural issues to the way that the budget is developed that we will need to work on together before I think that we could potentially get to a true zero-based budgeting model.
Okay.
I think we're going to be more in a hybrid this year.
Okay.
But I think if we can address some of those issues moving forward, that we might be able to get to a true model of looking from a zero-based approach.
I think we're just sort of a administrative item. Would it be possible to get a view of the strategic plan in like the time sorted by sort of deadline versus
I can find out. So we're having some formatting issues with
Okay.
it because it's not done in an Excel spreadsheet, but I will find out if he can format that any differently for me so that we can have that view of it. That's just one of my concerns. We don't own the document right now. So every time I need a change, I need to go back to the provider that helped me.
I thought it'd be helpful for us, but also even helpful for like public communications and
Sam, is this the board goals you're talking about?
the whole blueprint.
So
Yeah.
The whole blueprint. Yeah.
I'm sorry, was that with the blueprint or the board?
The
goals?
blueprint.
The blueprint.
Yeah. Great. Thank you.
All right, on to regular business. First up, the driver education program for spring 2026. Anybody have any comments or questions on that? Great, motion to approve. Kathy, second. Rob, all those in favor? Okay. Audit report and financial statements for 2024-25. Any comments or questions? Motion to approve. Mike, second. Cindy, all those in favor? Resolution authorizing return of the warrant of unpaid taxes to Rensselaer County Treasurer. Resolution approving tax collector's report for fall 2025. Any comments or questions on that one?
I just had a question. Historically, is this about the same?
Yes, actually, it's been in that range. Actually, it's a little bit lower than it was last year. We were in the 1.8.9 million and we're in the $1.7 million range. So it's pretty comparable.
Thank you.
Motion to approve. Kathy, second. Cindy, all those in favor? Financial Advisory Services Agreement, Capital Markets Advisors LLC. Comments or questions? Motion to approve. Rob, second. Sam, all those in favor? Resolution acknowledging and accepting letter from Design Construction Professionals on Red Mill Sanitary Sewer. Comments or questions? Motion to approve. Robert, second. Cindy, all those in favor? MOA with EGTA. Any comments or questions?
Just want to thank the union for working with the administration and during difficult staffing times. So thank you for
Motion to approve. Mike, second. Rob, all those in favor? All right, moving on to committee reports.
Okay.
Health insurance review.
Yes, so we had our health insurance review committee back on November 17th, just before Thanksgiving. And we had a few topics that we reviewed. One of them is our Medicare Advantage plan renewal rates had come out, and that's a calendar year, January to December. So we reviewed what those increases are. The increases on the high mark plans, there's an in-area network plan and an out-of-area network plan. We're just under 10% for the year, and the CDPHP Medicare Advantage plan was higher at about 17%. These plans do provide some goodies. They're still lower cost than the commercial Medicare plans. So they are a good option if they fit the medical needs of the retirees. We also highlighted that some members may get some communications. So CDPHP and St. Peter's Health Partners are publicly going through negotiations similar to last year with like Albany Med. So we just talked about as a committee just to make sure that they were aware, that their members may get some communications regarding these negotiations, and they hope they wrap up and hope that there's no provider disruption there. The next thing is we've been ongoing monitoring of our pharmacy cost trends. We did see that so far fiscal year to date, only 4 months in, so it's still a short window, that we have had some improved trends. In other words, we're not seeing 25% increases, we're seeing more like 10% increases. However, if you end up clicking on the link in the document, there's a nice analysis. The second page of that document has just a graphic representation of, the RX plan is self-funded. So it's based on actual claims that come in through the door. So it could be one particular employee or their family member that has a major issue that has a prescription drug cost that could be $1 million. So quickly the plan financially could be impacted if there's a specialized, medication that's needed. So we're basically, the CASHIC, the consortium we're part of, it recommends a 4-month average of claims be held like just on a reserve so that you can weather those increases and decreases. Over the last 24 months, we basically have been really dwindling down on that reserve balance. So there is some catch up that still needs to happen. So we are anticipating, just even looking at this trend, that there's still going to be a hefty increase going into 26-27 fiscal year on what those are. We won't know that more until February, March timeframe, but just at this initial look, we could be looking at a 20% increase, and that would even incorporate almost a 3-year plan to like recover that reserve. So it wouldn't even quite cover it. There were some things that were implemented. One was free market health to just put some guardrails around some of specialty medications last year. We don't know the exact results. There's not enough data to actually assess how well that's working yet. There will be some upcoming changes that Highmark is looking at to also help control pharmacy costs. We're going to be learning more about them over the late winter. And, there may be further discussions about that, but they wouldn't become effective until July 1. It sounded like they were all positive things. So there's definitely just an industry look at needing to try to manage this better. So we basically talked about that to evaluate what is happening so far. So we're just constantly making that an agenda item on our health insurance committee. And then we implemented some improvements with our employee benefit deduction schedules. So we seek some feedback from the committee and looking to potentially do further implementation more district-wide. We had deduction schedules that did all sorts of things. Basically, everyone's paycheck changes every pay period, and we're looking to try to make that more streamlined. So it seems to be working for the groups that's implemented in, and looking to do more work on that. So that was basically the conversation at the Health Insurance Review Committee. So I don't know if there's any questions on that.
How do you fund that reserve?
So that reserve, that I don't know how it originally was reserved or established, but basically this past year there's 2 reserves that sit at Kashik. There's a medical reserve and a pharmacy reserve. The medical reserve is, they recommend about 2 months of premium in there. So there was some additional medical reserve premium that we were able to shift over to the pharmacy. So if you're looking at that graph, you'll see like a spike right around June 30th of 2024. So we moved some of that to help alleviate that, but we're still drawing down on that reserve. So the reserve is only funded to the extent, based on the balance of those 2, or if there's a premium call, which the health insurance plan, it's a retrospectively rated health insurance plan, which means that at the start of the year, Kashik negotiates with Highmark and CD. Actually, it's Highmark primarily to what the premium is going to be, and they try to get it so it's break even. So, but in some years, there's good years, like the COVID years, there were big refunds because there wasn't a lot of medical claims happening. More recently, there's been a lot more catch up. So there has been settlements due back to Highmark. For example, the Kashik Consortium owes about $7.5 million to Highmark just for 24-25. That's going to affect our medical reserve by about $500,000. So we're watching that too. And based on year-end results because that wasn't known until after, at the end of the year, we were able to increase the medical reserve by another $500,000 right at the end of the fiscal year last year.
So you're already telling us that in 26, 27, as we develop the budget for the previous conversation, we're already looking at $1 million plus.
Could be $1.5 million just on the pharmacy side.
Understood. Thank you.
And we'll be getting additional information on the medical probably later this month to be able to really work in what those preliminary increases are. So we have something that we're working with in mid-January when we look to present the current program cost increases.
Has the consortium ever looked at a different pharmacy benefit?
So that actually was discussed at the meeting, and based on they felt that the disruption for changing a PBM would be much greater than some of the, they meaning Kashik.
Aren't you Kashik? Aren't you part of Kashik?
Part of Kashik. Yeah. So I mean that was the recommendation from Amsher. So they had
so millions of dollars is less of a disruption than changing pharmacy benefit. Is that the business official's opinion?
I don't know.
Okay. Could you convey that? It's a concern.
I raised the question.
Thank you.
I was the one that communicated the question, and it ended up on the agenda.
Maybe the superintendents need to step in, Curtis. I think that's a problem. a little bit of history with this.
Understood.
Trying to save the district money. You know, it
Absolutely.
just means like,
Yes.
it's just frustrating that they would say that. That's the excuse. It's hard work,
Mhm.
right? It's a lot of work.
There are other health insurance consortiums that I've seen change 3 times in a matter of 5 years.
And no one likes disruption, but if it's gonna save our staff and the district money, we have to pursue those opportunities to do that. You know, just follow the money trail.
So there is some program improvements that are happening that I think are going to be beneficial.
Okay, good. Let's hope we hear some of that.
Mhm.
And then my ire is not directed at you.
I understand.
It's the system.
Moving on to Advocacy Committee and Code of Conduct Committee.
So we were able to hold 2 committee meetings over the last several weeks. First, on October 30th, we had our Code of Conduct and Athletic Code of Conduct review. It was our initial high-level review. On the agenda, one of the topics of conversation first was looking at our policy regarding distraction-free learning and is the implementation of the policy adopted by the board working. There were some very high-level recommendations on language that had existed in other parts of the code related to it around the issuance of Chromebooks, because now Chromebooks are more in use and in play versus when students could use their phones. Some language regarding student responsibilities with their Chromebooks. We also spent some time just talking about long-term, what does the implementation of distraction-free learning mean for annual updates to the Code of Conduct as well. We then pivoted to ask our building administrators to go back and initiate these conversations with their building level teams to look for issues or concerns with the Code of Conduct and bring those back to the next meeting so that we could talk about what other revisions that we would have to make. The initial revisions that we discussed, I've submitted to legal counsel. We will have first read ready for you at the meeting on December 17th for updates to those parts of the Code of Conduct and the policy. We then shifted conversation to the Athletic Code of Conduct to discuss from a regulatory standpoint, where do we stand in terms of academic eligibility? Right now, our academic eligibility policy is, for lack of a better way to say it, non-existent. We do have something in place, but really there's very little accountability for students. We had a lot of conversation about being cautious about not taking time in sports away, but still looking for ways to hold students accountable, have them document when they're going for additional help, putting the onus of responsibility on those students who may be performing below level, have them document that they are making progress in classes, and also looking at ways as per the new strategic plan and for some of the board goals to implement some elements of restorative practice in that as well. So like I said, we'll have some of those updates ready for you in the next meeting for first read for policy, and that will help us prepare for our next meeting after the administrators have had a chance to debrief with their building level teams as well. So Marcione, I didn't know if there's anything I missed that you would want to add.
Covered.
Great, thank you. So we also were able to hold an advocacy meeting on November 6th. We had some conversations just on, because there was a lot of new members, general membership, defining the scope and purpose of the committee. We reviewed the focus areas of the previous year, school aid funding, universal pre-K came up, school nutrition program, school safety, and of course our favorite topic, zero emission bus mandate. One of the jumping off points to look at the new year that we discussed, I had just come from a legislative, I'm the co-chair of the state legislative committee for the State Superintendent's Association, and I was able to share some of the hot topics that are coming through NISCUS. Some of the top priorities for 25, zero emission buses, the retiree earnings exemption with the staffing issues that we're having retirees be able to come back on a regular basis to fill in. Interesting topic that has come up through a lot of urban and suburban districts is the ability for schools to offer childcare to be able to draw more employees into the building. UPK is still on the list. Civil service reform is still a very big issue for school districts. Our ability when we have vacancies on positions that are protected by civil service to fill some of those spots is near impossible, for lack of a better way to say it. I had actually been part of a different organization, the Mid-Hudson School Study Council, that had written an appeal white paper to the Civil Service Board in the state, and they actually went in the other direction based on the recommendations. They're looking to almost make it more restrictive. We're really seeing challenges on school secretaries, some of the higher level positions, sometimes that come to the business office to get not just qualified people, to get candidates, for lack of a better way to say it. We're really struggling with our hiring practices. So that is a large legislative priority again. An interesting proposal has come out in terms of student safety. Obviously, as we think about safety, we pay a fair amount of money to employ 2 school resource officers in 2 of our buildings. There is the potential of a proposal to ask for that money to be a set aside in the tax cap, so that it is not an implication for your tax cap if you choose to employ more school resource officers. But they're also looking for any direct funding that might be able to come from the state to do that. Capital outlay projects right now, and Jen, forgive me if I describe this wrong, correct me if I do. For small capital improvement projects up to $1,000, $100,000, not $1,000.
Yeah.
1,000 wouldn't get us a tablecloth these days. But up to $100,000, you are eligible for 80% reimbursement the subsequent year.
I'd have to look at that
Yeah,
closer, but it's in a,
Essentially, instead of waiting over a
You
15-year
get next year,
period,
yes.
you get your capital outlay aid the very next year.
yes.
$100,000 unfortunately does not go very far these days. So there is an appeal to raise that to $250,000. And then there is a lot of appeal regarding special education, the issue of mandated services at age 21. Right now, there is a dichotomy between federal and state law. The state has taken a position that if a student turns 21 years old during a school year, that it is the obligation of the district not to have them finish their placement until the end of the year. However, the federal government is not following that up with funding. They believe under IDEA that their responsibility ends when the child turns 21. So any student that is still placed in a school district and the district is making a decision to keep that student until the end of the year is paying that only through localized funding. That is still an issue that's going on in the state. There have been, I think, 3 lawsuits that I'm aware of, 2 down in Westchester County and 1 actually in Orange County regarding this. Then there's an appeal to change the due process challenges from 2 years down to 1, and then some ability to move the selection of independent evaluators from the parents to the district. So one of the biggest outcomes that we had beyond developing our priority list for this year was setting up a legislative breakfast with our elected officials, not for any other reason, but to expose them to our schools, to get them into our buildings, to be able to show them the good work that happens in our schools. Mr. Wagner had actually made the recommendation that there's a program that happens in January with our seniors making presentations. So we are working on arranging it for that date and getting some invitations out. I'll make sure that once everything is structured, that the board is aware. So if any of you would choose to attend that, you would be able to do so as well. Mr. Panache is not here. He was at that meeting, and he was a good voice in the process as well. So those were 2 committee meetings. Thank you.
Okay, moving on, no tabled motions. No old business. Consent agenda. Any questions or comments regarding the consent agenda? Can I get a motion to approve? Kathy, a second. Rob, all those in favor? Okay.
Before we leave this, I just want to, again, I know we recognize our retirees, but I want to thank Helen for all her work again as BPS. Your expertise in special ed and sitting in without is tremendous, and that transition to the elementary school has went so smoothly, and they've done great things at Red Mill years of my tenure on board. Mr. Garab, Red Mill teacher, administrator, principal at Goff and then Green Meadow, the things you've done in making the Green Meadow, I would admire tremendously, and love that school, and they just cheered up the traditions over there. Just made it like our other elementary schools, just wonderful places. Peter, you were in the district before, you came back, you brought your expertise, got into administration, technology, all the things you've done with technology committee and educational technology. Just been wonderful working with you. I know you're all going to be here again for another 6 months, but or longer. But thank you for all your work and taking on that responsibility in technology. There were some bumps in the road before you got there. You've smoothed some things out, built a great team, and we appreciate all the work you have done for the district in that area as we've gone through that transition, especially during COVID. It was amazing what the team you did and put together to transition to a one-to-one computer environment. And I really want to thank you and your team for that. So thank you again. I wish you a wonderful retirement. I'm there. I love it. It's been a year. But I know you're keeping yourselves busy. So again, I just want to say those things before I forget. So thank you again.
Any new business?
Kim, I just want to bring it up to the board. The board goals, are they like finalized document? Do we have a finalized document for this? One of the things, I mean, there's a lot of document things on there that same about the blueprint. And there's some timelines in there. I'd like to see maybe if the board can just take a few minutes to kind of go through that again and just see where we are with some of those items, because I'm not sure where things are right now. So maybe get together the full document, finalize it, maybe under your leadership. I know there's some committees that were put together for the guidebooks and stuff. Kind of maybe have a point of discussion, maybe take 5 or 10 minutes during the board meeting and just kind of go through kind of where those more current items are and some things are being planned out for this school year.
I
Maybe helpful to the board.
believe I shared it out, but I'll find it again.
Yeah.
I'll reshare it.
Yeah, please. I think you did.
Yeah, I'll
but,
reshare it again.
And a hard copy?
Sure, 100%.
Post it on my wall. Thank you.
Glasses. Public forum? Anyone? No? Okay. Board forum, starting over.
Thanks.
Second, thanks.
I think I've said plenty tonight. So.
Any?
Oh, no, thank you again for how positive my first presentation was. It was really, I was really happy to be able to do that with everyone. So thank you again.
I just, do you think I can just say it? This has been a really challenging year with staffing, some emotional difficulties. So our hearts go out to you guys with, this has been hard on everybody. So I just wanted to acknowledge that.
Okay. So tonight we do need an executive session to discuss the employment history of a particular person. So motion. Kathy, second. Sam. All those in favor. Okay.
Anyway.